Hello, and welcome to the Corporate Compliance Plan training video for New York Therapy Placement Services. What is a corporate compliance plan? Well, it is a written document that spells out our organizational culture and the standards of behavior that are needed to comply with the laws, rules, and regulations which govern our operations. You may ask yourself, why does a corporation need a compliance plan? Well, we work in a highly regulated industry, and we work with a very precious commodity, fragile, vulnerable children. And there are lots of oversight agencies and government bodies that create laws and regulations to protect them that we must follow. What are some examples of agencies that regulate New York Therapy? Well, here is a short sample of 9 agencies. The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, the Office of Inspector General, the Internal Revenue Service, New York State Department of Health, New York State Education Department, the New York State Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, the Office of the Medicaid Inspector General, and the New York State Office of the State Controller. Now, those agencies create a lot of regulations that we have to follow. Some of the more famous ones are HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and in school age, the SAVE Act, which is Safe Schools Against Violence in Education. And most of these regulations are driven at a high level by New York State public health laws, New York State education laws, and the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The main points of the Corporate Compliance Plan for New York Therapy is that it provides written policies and procedures that provide guidance on how to act. The plan also designates a Corporate Compliance Officer, currently John Johnson, and provides training and education for all employees. It develops lines of communications to discuss compliance issues, and it develops disciplinary policies to encourage good faith participation with the compliance plan. In addition, it creates a system for responding to compliance issues as they are raised, and it institutes a policy of non-intimidation and non-retaliation for reporting compliance issues. Our corporate compliance plan has 9 policies, and we'll go through them one at a time. The first one is the Code of Conduct and Ethics Policy. And simply put, it says, be truthful at all times in conducting business on behalf of NYTPS. Handle conflict of interests between personal and professional relationships ethically and honestly, and follow all governmental laws, rules, and regulations that apply to our business. Report ethics violations to the Corporate Compliance Officer, and participate actively in the compliance plan and encourage others to do so as well. The second policy is our duty to report, or our hotline policy. All employees have an affirmative duty to report misconduct, potential violations of laws or regulations, or concerns over questionable accounts or billing practices. We have established a 24-hour hotline to receive complaints and concerns. The number is 631-473-4284, extension 200. You can also call the Corporate Compliance Officer at 631-473-4284, extension 120. Failure to report a potential violation that you do become aware of may result in appropriate disciplinary action. The third policy is our conflict of interest policy. You are expected to conduct child care and business activities in an objective manner and not motivated by a desire for personal or financial gain. Disclose actual or potential conflicts defined as any situation in which financial or other personal considerations may compromise or appear to compromise the business judgment of any employee or other party engaged by us, the delivery of service, or the ability of an employee to do his or her job. And In layman's terms, a potential conflict occurs when an individual is in a position to influence a decision that may result in a personal gain for that person at the expense of New York Therapy's best interests or those of our stakeholders. The fourth policy is our less than arm's length conflict of interest policy, and it states that you have a duty to disclose business and family relationships which may create potential conflicts of interest in the company's dealings with its customers and suppliers. Examples would be if you have relationships with members of school boards or school staffs, with accounting agencies, or with other bodies that enter into contracts with New York Therapy. If such a situation is discovered, to resolve those conflicts, a person other than the person with the potential conflict will make the judgments and shall control the transaction. Our fifth policy is our confidentiality policy. It states that all employees are responsible for ensuring the confidentiality of all personally identifiable child records. Records may only be used for the purpose for which they are authorized, and records may not be disseminated for other purposes other than authorized without the written permission of the parents. Our sixth policy is our whistleblower or non-retaliation policy. All employees who report problems or concerns via the hotline or by calling the compliance officer in good faith are protected from any form of retaliation or retribution by this whistleblower policy. Our seventh policy applies mainly to financial transactions, and it is our auditing and monitoring policy. It focuses on our accounting controls, systems, and procedures. We perform internal audits of the following: of our billing and payments, our quality of services rendered, our internal governance, our mandatory reporting, and our credentialing and compliance. And the purpose of these audits is to identify non-compliance and risk areas, ideally before they happen, in advance of our internal and external audits. This number 8 policy, the legality policy, is probably the simplest to understand. It simply states that New York Therapy is committed to conducting all of its affairs in accordance with applicable federal, state laws and regulations. Our final policy is the training and education policy, and it states that training in support of the corporate compliance plan, such as this video, will be given to all new employees, and any changes we make to the plan will be made based on changes in applicable laws and regulations or in response to identified weaknesses in current operations, and they will be communicated to all employees as soon as they are made. In conclusion, please read the corporate compliance plan in its entirety, sign the attestation page, and return it to John Johnson at your earliest opportunity. Thank you very much for your attention today.